I think it's something that it might paralyze people in their pursuit of finding a personal brand, that they think that the thing they come up with is the thing that they will do for the rest of their lives.
Welcome to The Mountain Pass, a podcast about lifelong learning, curiosity, and our wonderful brain. Topics we love at Alp Audio. But this isn't a podcast about Alp, the product. Rather, it's conversations driven by our curiosity. Today, I'm speaking with Jessie Van Breugel, the founder of Realigned Coaching and an avid digital creator. Jessie has a fascinating entrepreneurial journey that I wanted to dive into, including traveling, writing, building in public, and helping others. Solo creators are becoming a powerhouse of growth in the economy, but it's not easy and requires unique skill sets and being a learning powerhouse, especially since you're the one-stop shop of your entire business. And Jessie helps people do exactly that, a topic we covered in depth in our conversation. Enjoy. Jessie, welcome to the Mountain Pass. It's great to have you here. We've been connected over Twitter, as a lot of my recent interviews have been going. And we've been following a little bit of what you're doing, what you're working on with creators, with branding, with sharing what you're doing on Twitter. I'm so excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's always nice to get connected to people that are building great things, especially through, I would say, mutual connections in this case. Looking forward to speak today and see what we can make of it.
Awesome. So we were just chatting before hitting play about your travels and where you are, and I think people can probably tell from your accent that you're somewhere in Europe. But I just thought maybe we'd start with a little bit of background, what you're working on, what your journey's been so far, and how you're traveling and working now.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's pretty normal because it's daily life, but I see that it's not that, I would say, like a regular life. So I'm originally from Holland. I spent the last 6 years living in Amsterdam. I used to work there for a couple of tech companies. Always loved traveling. Like South America is really my thing, so I spent a lot of time there in the previous years. But last year, mid of 2020, I would say June 2020, I decided to quit my corporate job. I was working at a big tech scale up in Amsterdam, technical customer success manager. It was a nice job, but with the switch from in the office to a fully remote situation at home, I was working 45 hours from my bedroom. And I was like, okay, this is definitely putting my mental health at stake. I wasn't really enjoying the role in itself, but I really loved the opportunities, the possibilities within the company. And I've often found myself interacting and engaging with the people, for example, in the product development team. But that whole, I would say, that social aspect fell away when we moved from the office setting to the home setting. So I just quit. I was like, okay, I can't do this. And I've never been scared for taking risks in my life, and I'm still alive. So I think it paid off so well. But I started my journey last year with online writing, because writing has always been a thing for me. So I started writing on Medium. And in the beginning, I wrote about everything, entrepreneurship, freelancing, digital marketing, mindfulness, self-development, making your bed in the morning as a good habit. So I think it just really broad. And then last year, at the beginning of last year in December, I wrote my first article on personal branding. And that kind of took off in a way that a lot of readers gave me the feedback that piece already helped them sculpt or shape their own personal brand. So I looked into personal branding because not too long before that, I was like, okay, what the heck is even a personal brand? I wasn't even aware that I was building my own for the last 6-7 months, or perhaps longer, by just putting out content online. So I dove into that, and that has definitely changed the whole trajectory of this year. So from January this year, I went full in on personal branding, and I always did that by writing my own content, but also by helping creators build their personal brands. Because in less than a year, I've seen like so many, and I think I'm sure we will touch on this like later in this conversation as well. But there are like so many so many opportunities and possibilities that came to me through having a strong personal brand, that I was like, okay, if anyone with like the ambitions to get there can learn this, that's such a game changer. So that kind of like took me on the road, and to literally be on the road, I think since February of this year. So I decided to leave Amsterdam because it was raining and a bit shitty there, and I was like, okay, why not go to better places? There was still a lockdown back then, so I decided to go to Costa Rica. Spent 3 months there at the time of my life, and I could like really like balance that out with freelance work, but also focusing all my efforts and time on personal branding. Spent there some time. Then I went back to Holland to just cancel my apartment because I was like, okay, this digital nomadism is something I want to like do for the longer term. Then moved to Indonesia, to Bali. But after like 2 months there, I kind of left the country because stuff was going downhill pretty fast. I was like, okay, I don't want to be stuck here. Got back in Holland, stayed there a time, and then went east. So I spent the last 2.5 months in Eastern Europe. Currently, I'm in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I'm hoping to spend Christmas on the beach of Mexico. So that's a bit of I would say, like the geographical journey this year. It has been a ride, like ups and downs, definitely. But I think it made me a more complete creator and solopreneur to just take the learning, to put on the learning hat to see what I've learned from like the physical adventures.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot I want to drill down in.
I can imagine.
It's a great story. And part of me is envious, and part of me is, in Hebrew, the word would be lefargen, which in English doesn't quite have a good translation, but it's basically giving you a high five. So I have these two reactions. I think the first thing that popped into my mind was when you said you left the job because you were working at home in a closet for 45 hours. Was it the shift to working remote and working on your own? Was that the thing that made the big difference?
Good question. I spent a lot of time like thinking about this, of course, and so let's wind up a bit. So I took the role, like that last role we're talking about. I took it knowing that it wasn't my ideal job, or that it was something that I was like aspiring to do for a longer term. But I found it like as a really good entrance in a company that I loved working for, but I wanted to grow towards like product manager, like at some point. So I basically spent my days in the office, like doing all the things I needed to do on my own job, but then interacting and getting like a foot between the door. If I say this out loud, I think it's like the good thing to say. Like I tried to fit in myself between like the people that I want to work with in the longer term. So, and that went pretty well. And the moment we switched from the office to the bedroom setting, that I was like, it was really hard to keep doing that. And I was like, okay, do I see myself working for at least another year in this particular role, or am I going to do something else for myself? So it kind of, yeah, and I think that's how the thought process went back then, because I would say more than half of what kept me in the role fell away by the physical setting change.
Got it. Yeah, it must have been a big difference. And it's such a shift for, I guess that's a form of personal branding, but inside the office, when you can make those connections and prove your worth, and therefore shift into the position that you want. So many of us take an entry-level position or some kind of position, not because it's our dream job, but because it's the door in. And then when you work from home, it's much, much harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
Definitely. And like when I look back to like all my like corporate employed jobs, I always managed to, I would say, create my own role by doing the things that were needed for my specific job, but always like taking on projects or coming up with initiatives to help the team or I would say the department grow. So at some point in every company I worked with, people started to see me for X. So looking in hindsight, that was always like I was building my brand within the company, and that's pretty interesting to see if I look back.
Got it. Yeah, it is interesting. So the other thing that jumped out at me was when you started writing, and I love the entire topic of writing in general, but specifically writing online, sharing thoughts, and especially Medium, which is an interesting choice. So I'm just curious, why did you choose writing? What were you writing about? Why Medium? I know people like to publish on Twitter, or they like to have their own blog. Like, what were all the different thoughts that you had before making that choice? Because in some ways you were starting out on your own personal branding journey.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I choose Medium in the beginning because I saw it as the easiest way for me to get started. I didn't need to care about like setting up a website, doing all the SEO stuff, getting the infrastructure right, etc. So that's why I just took Medium as an example. I was always like already a reader and a consumer of Medium, so I was very familiar with the platform. But also, and I think that's one of the biggest motivations in this case, is that there is a monetization part built in Medium. So your stories, you get paid for your stories measured by the amount of reading time that members, like paid members of Medium, read your story. So that was for me like, okay, I can actually make money writing online just by using Medium. So I was super excited that my first story, when the first couple of dollar cents like came in, I was like refreshing the page like 12 times a day, even though the page only updated once a day, but I only found out later, just to see that you like something that I put so much effort in. I remember my first article was about like the importance of making your bed in the morning, how it can set up your day for success. So pretty broad and general. And I think there are like a million articles like written about that subject. But to see that I earned like a couple of cents with that article, I was like, okay, this is definitely something I want to like invest more time into. So that's how I got started on Medium.
It's such a great moment, that first time when you get paid for work online. I think it's really an aha moment for so many people. I know it was for me, because all of a sudden, all of the kind of the opportunity, the financial opportunity in the world opens up, and you're no longer constrained by where you are.
Exactly. And Jack Butcher says this as well. Like the moment you make your first dollar online changes everything. And that's true in my case. And I just learned that it was also true for you. And that's, I think, like with every creator, like till date I spoke to, like the moment they made their first dollar online, it's not about the money, but it's about unlocking this mindset and like shifting your mindset to the next level. Like, whoa, I can actually make money doing what I love, or perhaps not even like doing what you love, but you can actually make money from your bedroom, like doing something online. And in hindsight, it sounds obvious, but the moment that first dollar, I would say, like hit your PayPal account or your Medium dashboard or your actually bank account, you're like, oh shit, I made this money in such a non-traditional way as we were taught in the systems that how we've brought up.
Exactly. And I think it's more than that, in the sense that we have these two assumptions that we've been brought up with. I'm like a child of the late 80s. So one The first one was that almost everything on the internet is free, whether it's content or music, or like also because I grew up when we were downloading everything from Napster or from
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Emule or whatever BitTorrent we were using. And that was one core assumption. And then, Google and Facebook, where everything is free. And the second one is just so few of us, I think, generate an income from something we create, right? I mean, we most of us live in a services industry where we do research or we analyze stocks or I don't know, whatever it'll be, but it's some kind of service. And it's not, we're creating a product, a book, some thoughts, anything like that. And the internet all of a sudden opens those doors for us. And you're like, wow, it's just this mind-blowing moment of opportunity, just like you said.
exactly. It's that mindset shift that opens up your mind to like an infinite amount of possibilities in the online space. And I think that's why I would say the creator economy sounds so attractive to outsiders or people want to get in, but at the same time, it's also, I would say, the downside of it, because there's as anything is possible, it becomes hard to find your jam or your I would say your niche in this case.
Yeah. So how did you find your jam and your niche? Because it sounds like you were writing on all kinds of different broad topics. And then you mentioned that you had this post on personal branding and that kind of took it off. So did it happen by chance, or did you have an idea that this is what you wanted to do? And then the second question is, like, what do you think in general about personal branding online? What makes it hard and what makes it a must-have?
Yeah, those are two great questions, and I think I'll of course start with the first one. But yeah, I kind of, when I look back in hindsight, is that actually my niche found me in this case, because I just pulled up the first article, and I published it on December 11th, 2020, so almost a year ago from now. And the headline is, "If you want to be successful in 2021, a personal brand is important." And I don't know how I got the idea, but by then I was already like, I started on Twitter again. I think like October 2020, I resurrected my account. So subconsciously, I was already interacting with a lot of creators without knowing those people were called creators. And I was particularly a fan of the work Jack Butcher was doing with Visualize Value about productization and like productizing yourself. And I was like so intrigued by this concept, because he done like so much like service stuff for as in graphic design for his clients. But at some point he was like, okay, how can I productize this and make sure it's leveraged? And by researching that, I came to this conclusion sort of that people knew him for what he was doing or what kind of stuff he put out. So that decided me to look a bit deeper into this personal branding thing. I wrote this article, and that just helped people already. It was like, okay, there was so much in this, and I saw it essential for my own journey as well, because it's actually pretty meta that my personal brand is about helping creators build a strong personal brand. So I just saw it as a really good experiment. Like, okay, if I can write about this thing, it helps others. And if it doesn't, it still builds my own brand. So there is always a benefit out of it. There is always like ROI on it. So yeah, I think just by trial and error, by writing like a zillion different things, I wrote about this. It hit home with my audience, but it was also something that I saw that got my interest, because I think that's essential, because you can, even if your audience loves it, but you utterly hate it to write about it or to create content about it, you can't stay in for the long term. So I think it's a bit of both. So yeah, it sounds cliche answer, but yeah, my niche picked me, as I like to say.
So let's uncliche it. But
yeah,
because it sounds cliche, but I think there are two parts of the answer, and let me know if I'm way off base or if I'm in the right area, which is one, there was a lot of consistency and work that you put into it. So for your niche to find you, you were putting out content on a regular basis on all kinds of different topics, right? You were basically throwing darts against the wall for a few months, half a year, and seeing what sticks. And maybe you didn't have the mindset while you were doing that. Maybe you did. I'd actually love to hear from you. But at the end of the day, there was one that had this outsized benefit, right? And then that was like the big sign that you used. And so it sounds cliche, but actually underneath it, there's a lot of work that you were doing.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the now, of course, we're talking about this a lot. And now for me, like looking back to my journey, like, okay, what got me to the point that I found personal branding? And I started to unpack that a bit. And it definitely framework or I use for I would say like this approach is called the DICE framework. So the first part is where you diverge, where you basically collect as many dots as possible. So you try like 20 things or like 25 things or like whatever for like 30 days, 60 days, 120 days, whatever. Then you want to sit down like, okay, what did I like? What am I good at? What comes natural to me? What can I continue doing? And what is something that resonated with my audience, for example? Then you want to connect dots. So you want to go, you want to converge. And so you come closer to this one thing. And then finally I would say you find your jam. And then you can bring your jam to the world to say like, okay, this is what I've been sculpting all these months. And now I can show my creation to the world. So how I see this is that you can't get to I would say like to the showing part without the diverging part and the converging part, because otherwise it's just hoping to win the lottery. It's like, okay, I'm just doing one thing, and this needs to be the thing I want to do with this needs to be the thing that my audience loves, but also the thing that I can continue doing it. So that's I don't know many creators that found their niche or their purpose or their passion in one go. I would love to talk with them to just hear about their process, because I'm pretty sure that they found that by luck, but that's an assumption.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think there's a way without luck to figure it out. What I'm curious about is the divergence and the convergence that whole process is very challenging. So when you work with creators, when you work with branders, people who are building a personal brand, how do you help them through that stage?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course it not of course, but it a personal brand starts with you as an individual, as the term pretty much gives away already. So one of the key, or I would say the key first step, is to understand yourself and what you're about. Because if you know that, then it becomes easier to, I would say, try those 20 things, because there should be some relevance to them. Because if you're just going to randomly try 30 things, then the chances that you land up with the thing that are passionate enough and actually good about or good at for the long term are pretty meager as well. So that's why with the people that I work with or that I support, is that I like to zoom in and tune in on their uniqueness. And as that sounds pretty, I would say, abstract, because yeah, everyone is unique, but what's my uniqueness or something? I I stumbled upon this six question framework like half a year ago, and I started to use it to first understand my own uniqueness, and then to also like apply this to people to just help them understand the thing that they were good at, the things they were skilled at, the things they got experience in, etc. So this framework is called the Brand DNA Helix, and it came on my path by Rory Vaden. He's one of the biggest, I would say, personal brand strategists. He's super big in the US. And basically, the 6 questions are not too hard, but it's just like they're pretty obvious, but you just want to sit down for yourself and to help them answer. So the first question is, what's the problem you want to solve? The second question is, what's the thing you're most passionate about? The third question is, what do you research or study? The fourth question is, where do you have actual results or experience in? And then the fifth question would be, what would people be willing to buy from you? And the sixth question is, what business do you want to be in? So by answering these 6 questions, people already start to understand more what they're about, but also what they want to do. And there is no right or wrong answer in this case, but it's such a powerful exercise to at least come up with, let's say, 10 to 20 to perhaps 30 ideas that you can try for this divergence phase.
Maybe we run through those 6 questions with like a personal example.
Yeah, that could be. Let me get it. So one of the. Do you want to get the example, or should I give it to you?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay. Yeah, I can run through my example. So how I would say first started the framework for myself. So one of the key or the key element of this framework is the problem you want to solve. The first question. I always like to say that to be able to do something for the longer term, you need to fall in love with the problem you're solving, because by that you just stay excited to be on the journey. So the problem I want to solve is to help creators build a personal brand that can be turned into money. It's pretty vague and ambiguous, but on the other hand, it gives me enough like I would say entrance ways where I can just look into. Then the second thing that for me is a really hard one. It's like what's the thing I'm passionate about? Because like I said in the beginning of my writing journey, I wrote about 20 different topics. So I really had to like narrow this down. So I'm like, okay, what am I passionate about? For me, that's self-sustaining income, the creator's journey, digital nomadism, mindfulness, making your first money online, personal branding, tuning into uniqueness, all kinds of things. So that would be for me the answer. Then the research part, that's like, okay, what do I research in my free time? Like, what are the podcasts I listen to? What are the articles I read? What are the books that are on my shelves usually? All kinds of things. Most of them, like the content I consume online is geared around the creator economy and personal branding, the monetization aspect, and I would say the general content creation part. But then if I look to, I would say like my offline content consumption, that's way more geared towards spirituality, mindfulness, self-development, I would say to become a better human, or to become I would say like a more whole human, if that makes sense. So those are just things for me to, I would say like, if I would do this example again, just to write down for myself, because in that way, new connections can form. And at some point I'm like, okay, perhaps I should bring something of my offline content consumption to the online content consumption, because it might be something for my audience. Then the fourth question was, where is like the actual experience or results in? And that ties a bit in with, I would say, like a track record or your resume, because you can say that you're the best at certain thing in life, but it's much better if you can back it up by numbers or other people saying that you are good at a certain skill or that you have done something remarkable. So that's just like a list of like the accolades people are good at. So for me, that could be like the experience I got in both scale up as startup environments, implementing tools, but also online writing and build my own personal brand. To continue the example a bit, the last two questions are definitely about, I would say, the business model and the monetization aspect of the personal brand. So to help you remember, the fifth question was, what would people be willing to buy from me? And that's of course the question you as a creator should ask yourself. And that's just like a bit like brainstorming, like, okay, what would I be willing to put or like able to put together that people could buy from me? If you're a writer like me, like an ebook is like a digital ebook is a not so surprisingly example. If you're really good with tech, you can perhaps help people. You can put together like an online coding course. You can, if you're really good with people like on a personal level, you can offer like a one-on-one coaching because you got like 35 years of experience in a certain thing. If you're a great community builder, then building a community would be a thing. So this question really helps people to say like, okay, how can I turn my skills and my experience, etc., into some like a product people are potentially willing to pay for. And then the sixth and final question is, what business do I want to be in? And that could be like a couple of things. It could be a digital business. You can think about an automated business. You can think about a recurring business model, like a subscription model. You want to think about if the product you're building is like an evergreen product, or does it need to be updated? And finally, you want to think about scalability of it. So as you might see, is that the last two questions are already like really like strategic, but the more I would say, the more you are able to peel off the layers in the first four questions, like, okay, who am I? What am I passionate about? What do I research? And what kind of stuff am I really experiencing? Then you will see that in the fifth and the sixth question, you are able to already come up with a business model almost.
Interesting. I guess before the business model, I want to jump us back to the first and second questions, which are really kind of the core why. Because while you were talking, I thought there was this conflict between finding something you care about deeply on the one hand, right, among all of the many different topics. Because, for example, you mentioned you read offline about spirituality and mindfulness, but online you read things that are more oriented towards work. But you have to find, the first question is finding something that you care about deeply enough to work on for a really long time and wake up and enjoy doing. And so how do you think about those two things?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's something that it might paralyze people in their pursuit of finding a personal brand, that they think that the thing they come up with is the thing that they will do for the rest of their lives. And I don't really agree with that. I would say your personal brand is of course, it's going to be something that you're going to do for the long term, but it's something you want to do I would say the next season or the next chapter of your life. And that could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But by forcing yourself to find something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, that's pretty damn hard. So I would say that's something to be really mindful of. I would say to put a bit of my perspective on that, because you never know how stuff will change in 5 years from now. But at least find something that you're comfortable with doing for, I would say, like the next 5 years. And then to add your question, like, okay, how would in my example then the offline and the online content, let's say, matter to my audience? Good question. I think for me personally, that's it's all about self-development. So I've been busy with self-development, I think, since I reached my 20s or something. I used to do bodybuilding in the past. So it was always like a form of pushing the boundaries of what I could do with, in that term, like physical. And I would say like the books I'm reading like offline, those help me to, I would say, like understand myself better. And as I'm in like the personal branding space, most of the things are geared around like human psychology. So the better I understand myself, I would say, the more I'm able to help others, perhaps understand themselves, or I would say like even like a big part of the content of what I'm currently putting out is also like me sharing my my journey, because I know it helps a lot of people. If that makes sense. This is a long-winded answer to your question.
No, it does make sense. I think especially because what interests you is personal development, and you work in a field of helping personal development, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think my one are more random. I think I've had this problem. If you kind of go to my Twitter, you can see all kinds of different things, from startups and education to investing and Dungeons and Dragons. Like my niches spread far and wide, and I'm honestly happy kind of pursuing something in all of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, because I've had a couple of really good conversations around this I would say this discrepancy between like niching down versus not niching down. So one of my friends, she's I would say like known for being a multi-passionate creator, Jerry Nicole. I don't know if you've seen her on Twitter or Medium, but she's like, yeah, I allow my audience to see anything I'm like interested in, and that could be this, and I don't gonna like niche down or put myself in a box. And I think that's also a good point, because you're building your personal brand around one thing doesn't mean you can't talk about anything else. After all, it's your personal brand, so who the hell make the rules? So you see, but I would say to become known for something, you have to focus on one thing for at least like a medium amount of time, because it's really hard to become known for a thing or to build an audience around your case if you speak about everything at any time. See what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So I guess if you mentioned the rules already, and as we get close to wrapping up, what would those 3-5 rules be, I guess, in addition to the question framework that we just went over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So I think like putting a personal brand into action is one of the, let's say it's the problem I'm still solving for myself every day, but also that I help many other creators by. And it all starts, and perhaps this bores people, but it all starts with like understanding yourself and knowing what makes you tick. Like, what's the thing you would do if money wouldn't matter? Go investigate, or like go deep into that and experiment a bunch of things around that. I think that's already such a big step that I would say early stage creators fail to make because they don't want to fail, if that makes sense. So I'd say like understand yourself and then just try a bunch of different things, and chances are that you don't find it right away, but finding your niche or your specialty comes after trying like a million different things. So I would say to wrap it up in actionable steps is understand what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, and what's something that you want to learn more about. Then commit to, I would say, at least like 30 days or 60 days of creating content around those topics, putting stuff out. because nothing's going to happen if you keep your content saved in your drafts. Like the imposter syndrome will still be there. So just put yourself out there and connect with the people that do what you think you want to do. And trust me, after doing 30 days of that, you will have a much clearer vision of what your personal brand should be about. And yeah, the fourth step, it's let me see. Perhaps it's not the fourth step, but that would be between like the second and the third. But one piece of advice that has been fundamental to me is the phrase of give the advice you needed to hear 6 months ago or 12 months ago. You can change the time period. But by doing that, you think back of your own struggles you had not too long ago, and then create that content. You can say like, okay, what is the piece of content I needed to read 6 months ago? So you think back of your problems, and you're going to create that content, because trust me, there is someone in that stage where you were 6 months ago. So by doing that, you always stay true to yourself, and it allows your audience to connect with you, because they see like, oh, this person that I look up to, for whatever reason that might be, also had this struggle, but they're now teaching me to overcome this and to become better at it. And I think that is the key essence of a personal brand. I would say, like, to wrap up, like almost like an hour of talking, like give the advice you needed to hear 6 months ago or 12 months ago, because by doing that, you stay true to your own personal journey, and you provide the most relevant value as possible.
Yeah, that's how we try and put our blogs together and kind of share our journeys as well. So where can people read your stuff? Where are you on Medium, on Twitter? And I'll add the links, because I know your last name can be challenging for some people.
Yeah, definitely. So on Twitter, if people just go for my first name, Jessie, and type in personal branding, they will find me. So luckily the Twitter SEO has been good to me. So just Jessie and then personal branding on Twitter. And on Medium, it's my first name, Jessie Van Breugel.medium.com. And that's basically my home for all my long form content. And if people are interested in learning more about different like one-on-one projects or programs I offer, they can look at Realigned.works. That's my professional page where people can find more about the one-on-one coaching or the one-on-one community aspect I provide as well, to help people build a personal brand that can be turned into money. So those are I would say the three things that I'm most active on.
Great. All right. And I will put links to all of those in the show notes. Jessie, thanks so much for making the time and coming on the Mountain Pass. This has been a really, really interesting conversation in an area that is not my forte and does not come easily to me.
That's amazing to hear. I hope it was valuable for you and for the reader, or for the listeners, not the readers. And I hope it makes sense. And I think we covered a lot of interesting topics around personal branding.